Will the government bail us out? I mean, this has broad impacts for the whole economy, right? Doesn't it? I mean, doesn't this mean that people aren't going to be able to put money in their house, not going to be able to buy, not going to be able to buy and repair their homes? Home Depot is going to be in trouble, right? What about all the repair guys? How about a lot of my construction guys are dying out there? I had one of them say, I used to turn down $150,000 jobs a month ago. Now I'm taking kitchens for $15,000 because people aren't refinancing. People aren't pouring money into their houses, right? People aren't buying and rehabbing and flipping. This has got big impacts. You know, poor Wall Street, their bonuses are only going to be $750,000, no 1.2 anymore. I feel for these people. But they're crying. You know, they're miserable out there. But this does have far-reaching impacts. I guess before we get this, and this isn't really directly affecting us, but this credit crunch is going to mean a difference for credit cards. It's going to mean a difference for auto loans. A little bit aside, what this is really meaning for a lot of people in New York is that the multi-million dollar projects, they're not able to get financing. If I'm putting up an 85-unit building, I thought we had a deal, right? We had a handshake, and then the bank's coming back saying, no, we want another 10% down. No, your rate's substantially higher. What this means is that people are losing $500,000 million deposits on projects because they can't get their financing. 3 months ago, no problem, they had their financing. If they closed, they're fine. But if they go now, nobody's buying that paper. This credit crunch is affecting a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. Listen to Bloomberg, people are screaming. There are people on CNBC talking about that this is going to cause a recession. I don't know if it will, but I can tell you that there's a lot bigger impact than even what we're talking about here tonight. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not an economist. I only know what I see on my desk. I know what affects my mortgage guys when they're writing loans. I know what it affects my real estate investors. I know how it affects you guys. The broader scheme, worst case scenario is we're heading for a big recession. This is heading to Main Street, and it's going to affect all of us. So people are screaming for this. So that brings us to the question, is the government going to bail us out? Well, our buddy Bernanke said that the Federal Reserve will take necessary steps to save the economy from turmoil. Maybe we'll be able to, maybe not, time will tell. But we're not here to bail out the investors who made their mistakes, so that's bad news for us. And what this is going to mean is we're going to have this daisy chain effect. And let me just go back here for a second. So the government isn't going to be bailing us out. So we're going to have people on the bottom. Let me talk about that guy in Patterson again. Guy in Patterson buys a house, makes his payments, hardworking American. He then decides that he's ready to move up. He's going to move to Clifton. He's moving from Patterson to Clifton. Except he needs to sell his house. But what happened? There's no buyers for his house. You know who's buying his house? I'll buy his house for pennies on the dollar so I can cash flow it, right? But his house, he bought it with a $300,000 mortgage. As far as I'm concerned, it's not worth $300,000. Why? I need it to be cash flow positive, so it's worth about $1.20. So what happens when he can't sell his house from Patterson? He can't move to Clifton. And the guy from Clifton who was going to sell to the guy from Patterson, he can't move to Nutley. And the guy from Nutley who was going to move to Montclair, he can't because he can't sell his house. So when we talk about this greater overall effect, it is going to affect even those of us who live in nice towns like Montclair and think that we're insulated. There's a daisy chain effect here, and if this goes long enough, it will affect your house price too. Because eventually it'll hurt everybody. So let's go back. Is the government going to bail us out? Bernanke did increase the liquidity by reducing overnight lending costs. This is not prime. This is not the amount of money that banks lend to each other. All right, that affects prime and that affects all of us directly. This did add some liquidity, and it was to save Countrywide. It was to save these other banks, allowing them to borrow cheaper, keep the money longer. Indirectly, this helped us because otherwise we wouldn't have any place to borrow. I mean, when I heard Countrywide was going under, look, I don't panic easy, all right? But when I heard Countrywide was going under, that's the first minute that I thought maybe I may be out of the mortgage industry. Bank of America came in and sweeped it up, so I think we're okay. We averted disaster, but Bernanke had to do that. I mean, I think the powers that be stepped in and said, "You've got to do something." So he decreased the federal funds rate. Oh, he is going to decrease the federal funds rate by 1/4 to 1/2 at our next meeting on the 18th. All right, that is kind of good news for us. Anyone who's got a loan tied to prime, all right, your rate's going down, your payment's going down. You got a variable rate HELOC tied to prime. Good news, you're going down 1/4 point to 1/2. People are talking about going down a whole point over the next 6 meetings. So prime is currently 8.25. I got a giant HELOC on my house. I've got nothing on it, but I'm using that money if I need to jump on a property. I got a $175,000 home equity line. Someone comes to me and says, I've got a house I need to sell. I can buy $175,000 in cash and get it to you next week. And I plan on doing that soon. But that set at 8.25, I'm a point under prime right now, so my home equity is at 7.25. It drops a point, I'm at 6.25. That's cheap money. So that'd be good. And that will transfer over, I believe, to all interest rates. So the good news is, again, if you're an agency borrower, if you're a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, your rates may even get better. So again, you're full doc, you got money, yeah, I'm writing your loans. In fact, we're fighting over your loans. We're going to give you great rates, but if you're non-conforming, you're still in trouble. All right, so what's Bush's big plan here? God, I got no confidence in that man. I'm sorry, I just don't. So one thing he has recognized is we got a bunch of loans getting ready to reset. Everybody know this? Yeah. Do you know how many hundreds of thousands of 2-year ARMs I wrote? I mean, how many 2-year ARMs people wrote are now getting ready to reset? So you're going to hear a lot more about this. This is the FHA Secure. For those people who had those teaser rates that jumped up, there's going to be a new program. I'm going to be writing a lot of these where the interest rate jumped up. If you can show me, and it's not finalized yet, but the basic rules sound something like this. If you can show me that you paid your mortgage on time for a substantial period of time, then your interest rate jumped up, and it was then you started missing your payments, the government's going to come in and they're going to give you this government-backed FHA loan to try to get you back in there. So if your rate was 7, and you were making your payments for 1.5 years, and it jumped up to 8, and then you missed your payments, if we can get your rate back down to 7, we're kind of confident that you're going to be able to make those payments again. So that's going to be an interesting program. That's the biggest change what's going on. You still need 3% equity, and you need to have, your rate had to have reset between 2005 and 2009. I'll be talking about this more. And sufficient income to make the mortgages. What does that mean? They're not talking about full doc, because these guys aren't going to be able to do that.